Hello, this is Angus from the Mills Fabrica. We're excited to announce the launch of our new report, Rethink Packaging, a guide for the apparel and agri-food industry. To pave the way for our discussion during the webinar, I would like to give you a preview of our report. Here are some of the key insights. Let's find out more. Packaging is a key part to the apparel and agri-food industries that the Mills Fabrica focus on. To better understand how the single-use plastic packaging problems are being addressed, we interview consumer brands and collect the insights from various case studies. In this report, we look at the value chain including the pre-consumer and consumer levels. What are the initiatives and challenges that consumer brands encounter from production, manufacturing, distribution center, last mile, customer to end-of-life stages? We are intrigued to find out more. We have identified 4 common initiatives shared by brands when they address packaging impacts. First, many chose recycled materials as the starting point. They have set targets to meet a certain percentage of recycled materials within the next 5 years. Second, brands have recognized the need to reduce reliance on fossil fuel-based plastic. They are reducing plastic usage, and some have also trialed alternative materials. Third, companies are optimizing the packaging design by considering the amount of materials used and recyclability. A thoughtful design can help preempt negative environmental impacts. Fourth, many of them have expressed the wish to work together to achieve systemic change. For example, overcome economic obstacles with costs spread out with larger scale of production. It is important to unite all stakeholders in the value chain. Although there is momentum towards more sustainable packaging practice, there are still 3 main challenges. First, not every city has the right infrastructure to collect and recycle plastic packaging materials. The inconsistent infrastructure makes it difficult for global brands to cope with, as they operate in different locations. Second, alternative materials, whether it is paper or bio-based plastics, do not necessarily have the same performance as conventional plastics. It is important to understand their environmental impact and scaling up process. Third, we need stronger society-wide incentives to encourage behavioral change in production and consumption. For example, improve infrastructure and more developed markets for transacting secondary materials. In the report, we deep dive into the topic of recycled materials and alternative materials, as consumer brands often adopt recycled materials as the first step. We wonder if recycled materials are the solution to go. Can we embrace recycled materials fully? Besides, the bioeconomy has emerged as an alternative to the fossil fuel-based economy. Can we consider alternative bio-based materials? And how much do we know about them? For recycled materials, the positive sides are that consumer brands have stronger interest to adopt them. Plus, there are new regulations that target plastics pollution across the globe. However, according to OECD, the current recycling rate of plastics is only at 9%, which is quite low. This is because the markets for transacting secondary plastics are not yet well developed, and there is inconsistent infrastructure that affects recycling capacity across the globe. More innovative solutions are needed to increase the adoption of recycled materials. When we are looking at alternative materials, there are 3 main criteria we may consider. This includes whether the materials are ready to use and scalable, whether it fits into the supply chain, and lastly, its impact on the environment. It's exciting to see that some materials are better able to biodegrade, as bio-based plastics or bioplastics are derived from living matter or waste and byproducts. However, there is uncertainty still. Bio-based does not necessarily mean biodegradable, as it depends on the chemical structure of the material. The cost of production is high for these novel materials, and we do not know for sure how their performance compares to conventional plastics. There are always two sides to everything. Whether it is recycled materials or alternative bio-based materials, conducting life cycle assessment would be helpful to understand the environmental impact of different materials in a quantitative way. Life cycle assessment has now been used by brands and retailers in the apparel and food industry to assess the environmental impact of a product or an innovation from cradle to grave. A full life cycle assessment focuses on analysis over impacts across inputs and outputs. Various environmental impacts such as global warming potential, water depletion, human toxicity will be measured. We understand that companies are at varying stages on dealing with the single-use plastics packaging problem. We recommend taking a gradual approach to address the issue. In the short term, companies can consider regulating negative impacts at the start by adopting a thoughtful product or packaging design. Besides, we need some incentives to encourage behavioral change of stakeholders, including suppliers and customers. For instance, imposing tests on plastic packaging to shift suppliers to use more sustainable materials. In the longer term, we should learn to grasp life cycle assessment to make us better informed of the environmental impacts of different materials. Also, forming pilots and partnerships with young innovators can help test, launch, and scale up new innovations. We have highlighted some brand examples in the report for illustration. These include Green Monday, Unilever, Decathlon, Colgate, Allbirds, The North Face, Magnum, and Mars. They are working towards a more sustainable future of packaging. For instance, Magnum launches ice cream tubes made from compostable and recyclable plastics, while The North Face redesigns its footwear packaging with recycled tissue paper. Thank you for listening. We hope this summary is insightful to you. If you would like to learn more, please download our reports by scanning the QR code or visiting the Mills Fabrica website. Thank you.